Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Love Story, along with the lovely Miss Dyanna. Welcome, Dyanna.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
Of course. Thank you for being with us each and every month here. We appreciate you and your expertise so very much. And I know because they tell me, Dyanna, that it's really helpful.
I love
So
that.
thank you so much for being here and for supporting the greater good, my friend.
It's a good cause, a good fight, right?
Yeah. Mental health and wellness is a very good cause.
Yes, absolutely.
Guys, as normal or as usual, I should say, either we have a topic that's trending or we want to react to something on television, or we have a post in a Facebook group, either the MOMnation Arizona Facebook group or another group that we may belong to that kind of strikes our eye, kind of sticks out to us, and is something that we really want to talk further about and react further on. So this particular post is actually not a MOMnation Arizona post. It is anonymous because, of course, we never want to call out our people. That's not what we do here. But we definitely want to react to this one because, Dyanna, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people who have gone through this season in their marriage may still be in this season or perhaps revisits this season frequently.
Definitely.
So let's do it. The original post says, for those of you who are not watching the video here, I do have it put up on the screen. But for those of you who aren't watching, my husband and I are heavily in the roommate phase right now. Like, who can relate? I kind of feel like everybody can. 4 young kids, including a 6-month-old at home, and we are tired and burnt out. Whew, that makes me tired just reading that.
No kidding.
He's stressed about switching jobs right now and interviewing. Fair. I don't know what to do. He even admitted to me last night that I just bug him. Haha, I feel very undesirable, and I'm too tired to desire him. Lack of sleep is really just eating away at us. Lack of sleep is a big deal.
Very big deal. There's a lot happening there.
A lot.
They've gone through a recent adjustment of having another baby 6 months ago. Her body's still healing. Like, they're still adjusting to having like another baby. So they are definitely sleep deprived. Sounds like husband's in the middle of some sort of career or job adjustment. And so he's probably going through his own stuff right now, which is obviously affecting, leaking into the relationship that may or may not have been talked about. And saying that she feels like, he says he's being bugged by her is hurtful. So she's definitely having some feelings about that and feeling undesirable. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? Does that mean intimacy in general? Does that mean like just, quote unquote, nagging about roles and responsibilities? Like there's a lot there. And I can definitely tell that like she's really struggling with the situation that they have going on.
Totally agree. And something that may or not be a situation for her specifically that she didn't mention, but I can't help but think about and want to bring up because I feel like a lot of families are dealing with this. She has 5 kids, and this is not necessarily the least expensive environment that we're dealing with right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are a lot of money worries, budget constraints, like things are expensive. And I mean, we were just talking about it, like school shopping for 1 kid is expensive, let alone 5. And I wonder if there are some financial worries. Maybe that's the reason for the job change. But I feel like that can be a really heavy kind of underlying stress in many marriages, and perhaps this one too.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if he's the sole provider financially, because he could be feeling a lot of pressure to provide, to do what he needs to do. So I think that finances could definitely be a part of that, as well as there could very well be the potential there for like postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, what else is contributing other than the other slew of things that we just talked about? Is there some mood stuff on board there too for her that maybe she's not getting support with because, she is in the throes, in the thick of parenting young kids, especially if they're all like close in age together. Sometimes with postpartum, like it can just like stack on top of each other if it's not treated like the first time that it happens. So that could definitely be a thing there too. The roommate phase that, relationships go through, just want to like normalize that experience for everybody, because it does happen. And if you are in that space or you've been in that space, it doesn't mean that like anything's bad or anything's wrong or like your relationship's doomed or whatever. It's like you're aware of it. So now we can make some changes to it. But let's be so for real. Like, we are all human beings, and sometimes we're just going into survival mode when we're new parents or we have a new job or we just moved or some other big life adjustment. And then you throw like 3 life adjustments in there at one time, and you're just trying to get by. Like, you're just trying to make sure business is taken care of, bills are paid, kids are fed and dressed, and all of those things. So it is an absolutely totally normal experience. So if you find yourself in that spot right now, like, keep listening, like, it'll get better. But there are some things that you can definitely do to help move that process along faster, to help repair some of that like roommatey stuff. Mm-hmm. So let's define like what the roommatey stuff means first, which is like, lack of intimacy, whether it's like physical intimacy or even emotional intimacy, poor communication or a breakdown in communication that's only about, business. Did you pick up milk on the way home? Mm-hmm. I have an appointment today, or whatever the case may be. And not having like a lot of intentional time together. Those are all ways that can define, I suppose, like the roommate phase. So let's talk about intimacy. Mm-hmm. So nobody in the history of ever thought that they would grow up and be in a relationship and be like, it sounds like a really fun idea. I'm going to put sex on my calendar and we're going to plan it for Saturday at 7:00. Nobody ever. Nobody wants to do that. Like, that sounds like the most unsexy thing ever.
Yeah.
But we're going to be so for real, because that's what we do here. Sometimes when you are in the thick of that parenting, especially with little kids, and you don't really know what time you're going to get alone, sometimes you're going to have to intentionally plan that time for intimacy. Again, I get it. Like, if you're cringing and like, sounds really gross, I totally understand. But if we don't carve the time out for it, we're just waiting for that perfect opportunity. And that perfect opportunity may not present itself for a very long time.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's definitely something that we have to like keep in mind is, can we set some time, whether it's, after the kids go to bed or early in the morning on a weekend or something like that, that we know is just like specifically for us. Now, the physical intimacy, the sex part comes with, is directly correlated with relationship satisfaction, right? So like, if your relationship's going well, you're going to want to have more sex, but then also inversely, typically, if you're having more sex, like satisfying sex, right, your relationship quality is also going to be better. So it kind of has like a direct correlation there, right? So when we're talking about creating intentional time, that's not the only thing. We have to do things like that are outside of the bedroom to create some of that relationship satisfaction. So what are some of the pain points here that are causing some of the roommate stuff, right? Sometimes it's unclear expectations of roles and responsibilities in the house. You know what I mean? Is it feeling like it's unbalanced, someone's doing more of something, or there's some resentment brewing about, default parenting or the mental load or some of those things? That's categorically very unsexy and is going to contribute to a drop in intimacy. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we don't talk about that, or we struggle to talk about that, or we don't make the time to talk about that. So unclear expectations, as we know, typically gets both people in trouble, because the one person that doesn't know the expectation is going to fail, and the one that hasn't communicated the expectation is going to fail. So nobody wins in that situation. So that's definitely one big topic of conversation to be had if you're finding yourself in the roommate stage, is the expectations.
Totally agree. I feel like we did a video on it, or we did an episode on it. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to, for our followers and our audience members, I actually have a couple of past episodes that I'm going to link in the show notes. So check them out, guys, because we do dive deeper into what Dyanna just said. We dive deeper into intimacy, and also we dive into pre-baby and some things that you can do, which may be helpful for some of you out there that may be pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, that will help you make this transition a bit more smooth. So not to interrupt you, Dyanna, but I just wanted to let everybody know that those links are going to be in the show notes for easy access.
Yeah, that's all good resources there, because a lot of these topics, kind of weave together. So they make sense to view those ones too.
Yeah.
So we talked about physical intimacy like sex, but what about physical intimacy that's non-sexual too, right? That's one of the things that typically falls off when we're in the roommate phase. You know, that the hand holding, the cuddling, you know, the hugging, that kind of stuff. Sometimes that goes by the wayside. And when that goes by the wayside, it could be for like one of two reasons. One, because we're in the roommate stage and we're not really thinking about it, and we're just like, you know, trying to get all the things done kind of in crisis burnout mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sometimes that can be correlated to, if I learn from you that the only time that you are physically affectionate with me, that you want to touch me, hold my hand, cuddle with me or whatever, is because you're trying to initiate sex with me. And I know that that's not where I'm at right now. If I learn that from you, I don't want you to touch me at all.
Right.
You know, so if somebody reaches out, if your partner reaches out to you, like to hold your hand, you might be like, oh, nope, I have a headache. Like, nope, I was
Gotta wash my hair.
hold your hand. Right. Like, I was just trying to hold your hand. Well, if I learn that that's the only time that we are physically affectionate, is like when you're trying to get in my pants, I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that. You know what I mean? So being really intentional outside of the bedroom with physical affection is also going to help break out of that roommate phase, because it does give some of that connection back, some of that intentional connection back that shows like, hey, I'm here and like I see you and I want to connect with you. So that physical affection is really important too. That's completely like non-sexual.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I see a lot of, it's a great recommendation, but I think it has like a little nuance to it, which is when people say like, you need to go on date nights. Absolutely. Right. You need to go on date nights. Like everyone needs to have date nights. But that's not always feasible for everybody. Like being able to go on consistent, regular date nights is a bit of a privilege for a lot of people. If you think about all of the money that goes into going on a date night, like you're paying for the thing that you're doing, you're also paying for childcare, and that adds up.
For 5 kids in this case.
I'm saying, like, if you're hiring someone to like come for, let's say 4 hours, you know, have dinner and go see a movie, like you're already a couple $100 in for a couple hours of, you know, of a date night. You know what I mean? So it's not to say that it's not important to do that, but we also have to keep in perspective that just go on a date night isn't entirely possible for everybody. Now you can get super creative with it. Like you don't have to go and spend a bunch of money, right? Like you can go do something, but chances are if you're going out of the house to do something, you're going to have to secure childcare, and childcare is expensive. We all know that. Yep. So the date night is expensive, but if you're in a position where like, man, that's just not like financially possible for us, like that's okay. Like I get it. And that's totally normal. Let's find some ways to get a little creative then, where you guys can spend some time together, you know, after the kids go to bed or something, and you know, eat pizza and do a puzzle in bed or something like that. You know what I mean? If that's what you can do to connect, then like, we'll do that. But I don't want anyone to feel like shame or feel bad that like your relationship is just going to be doomed because we can't go, you know, to dinners and movies and stuff like that, you know, twice a month or whatever.
Right.
So the date nights are valuable for sure, but I just want to put that into perspective that that's just not entirely possible for everybody all the time. We just have to get a little creative sometimes.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Totally.
Yeah, it's tough out there right now.
It is tough out there right now. And, you know, honestly, like I was having this conversation with a family member a couple of weeks ago when I was on vacation, went back home. So saw a lot of family, and it was an older family member. And he was sharing how, you know, man, it's really hard for kids these days, you know, for XYZ reasons. And, you know, when I think back about it, Dyanna, yes, things have changed. They're certainly different than when I first started out and when I was a young woman. But it was hard back then too. I don't know. I just feel like it's a different kind of hard now. And I'm not, you know, not trying to minimize it by any means. I just think that, hey, life is hard, and it is, you know, it can be an obstacle, obviously, if you weren't, you know, independently wealthy or born into riches. But we can figure it out, right? We just need to come together to do so. So can we talk a little bit about what that looks like? Hey, I'm in roommate phase. Maybe I needed a break. I had a reset, whatever. I'm good. I want to come back. I want to come out of roommate phase now. And sometimes that can be hard.
Absolutely. Yeah. Open and transparent communication is like the very first step when you recognize that it's happening, right? Like, can I come into the out now?
Yes. I love that movie.
we're in the roommate phase right now, or even you might not even notice it, and your partner might be the one coming to you and being like, it might be a euphemism for something else. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, we haven't really had sex in a while, or like we haven't really spent any time, or something like that, something to that nature, right? But like being really transparent and vulnerable is tricky if you suspect that there's a possibility your partner might become defensive. Yeah. Right. And that is definitely a common thing where if someone expresses a need or a want or something that they're missing, that the other person can become defensive and assume that like it's their fault. And then they feel all this guilt and shame that like they're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. And each time that's asked for, like a change is asked for, then there's this fear on the defensive part of like, what if I get it wrong? What if I screw it up again? Et cetera, et cetera. So like gaps in communication become glaringly obvious during these conversations about being in the roommate phase, because this is a time to be very transparent and very, very vulnerable, because it's not just about my needs and what I want, but like I'm noticing this for us, and like this is not what I want for us. You know what I mean? So like, what have you noticed? Like, these are some of the things that I've noticed. This is what I'm feeling, and really connecting like to the emotional experience of it. Because we can talk about high level intellectually what's going on all we want, you know what I mean? Oh, we're talking more about the kids than we talk about us, or we're only talking about switching out the laundry, or we're spending the weekends couch rotting, and whatever. Like intellectually we can talk about all those things, but how do you feel about it? You know what I mean? Like, what is the emotional experience that's happening there? And once we identify these shared problems, well, now we can go into solution finding mode and try to figure this out together. That's because it isn't your fault. It's not my fault. It's just, this is just what's happening right now. We need to figure it out. So that open, transparent communication is really difficult because it requires you to be very vulnerable, but that is certainly the way through, not around it.
My last question for you is, and maybe it's not the last one, I always say that, and then I have another one. How do we stay out of the weeds? And what I mean by that is come together and communicate on what's really important and what the true issue is, versus this thing happened, that thing happened, you said this, I said this, kind of like the everyday playing out of the issue versus the actual issue. I feel like that can be a distraction to what is truly going on. How do we get there?
Yeah, identifying content versus process, right? The content isn't about the things or the cup that's left in the sink. It's the process underneath it that I feel like you don't appreciate how much time I spent cleaning the kitchen when you just threw your cup in the sink. So identifying the content versus the process really gets us into like what we're actually talking about. Sometimes asking that question is clutch. What are we actually talking about here? Because I feel like me leaving my cup in the sink is not it. That's not what's contributing to this. Maybe it's annoying, but like, what are we actually talking about here? You know what I mean? So trying to figure out underneath that content that we think we're fighting about, just like pressing pause and saying like, wait a second, this doesn't feel like this is the actual issue. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what's coming up for you right now? Because I'm feeling attacked, I'm feeling guilty, I'm feeling shameful, and insert emotion here, you know what I mean? And trying to get everyone back on track by being emotionally regulated. You know what I mean? We have a hard time parsing out content versus process when we're not regulated. So if someone's not regulated, like that's a perfect time to take a break and make a commitment to return. I know we've talked about that in previous episodes too. Like, it's okay to take a break, but you have to make a commitment to come back. And then you guys can find your solution when you're both regulated. So being emotionally regulated when you're having these conversations is imperative. And while it's not the same, but definitely related, one of the things that since we're talking about the communication and the content, how this links back to perhaps like the roommate stage and like how to get us out of it. Are there any undiagnosed mental health disorders that could be playing a part here? You know what I mean? That are contributing to the roommate phase. Like, how long has this been going on? Has this always been a thing? Has communication, been really great, but now it's fallen off? Okay, well, that makes sense because we're in this adjustment right now. But is there anything at play here? I see, her husband going through this career adjustment. Like, could he be struggling with depression right now? Could he be struggling with, who knows, ADHD is also one of those things that causes emotional dysregulation. You know what I mean? So it's also something that we don't immediately need to jump to. Like if somebody is sad, then it's not like, well, are you depressed? Well, like, no, I'm just really sad about the situation right now. Like, that's okay. So it doesn't need to be like the default, the thing that we go to, but it's definitely something to consider, especially if there's a pattern of behavior or a cycle that we often find ourselves in. It's definitely something to keep in the back of your minds.
Giant, huge. I can't shed enough giant spotlights on what you just said, honestly. And I love that. And we're going to talk about it in an upcoming episode.
Sure,
of course. Awesome, friend. Anything else that you'd like to add for this mama before we leave today?
Hang in there. Hang in there. Have those tough conversations. Share how you feel. This is a season. It will pass.
Totally agree. Well, thank you again, Ms. Diana, for being here with us. We love your time. Well, we do love your time, but we love your expertise as well.
Thank you. I love being here.
Awesome. All right, guys, if you want to check out any of our previous episodes, keep in mind I'm going to link those 3 episodes that I mentioned during the show in the show notes so that they're easy for you to access. But we have a ton of other content, so please hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at MOMnation USA. Scroll down just a little ways. You don't have to scroll far, and you will see the Our Love Story playlist. It's actually a podcast, too. So if you click on the YouTube podcast, you're going to see it there as well. And there you can access all of our previous episodes, like, comment, download, all the things, subscribe. You will never miss an episode. If you prefer listening podcast style, so maybe you're out running, maybe you're out biking, all of that kind of stuff you should be doing to move your body, then hop on over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for MOMnation Talk Radio. There you'll find us, do all the same things. You'll never miss us. We will see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Struggling to reconnect with yourself or the ones you love? Meet Dyanna Eisel, a licensed marriage and family therapist, here to support your journey toward connection and clarity. She helps you feel seen, heard, and supported as you grow through life's challenges, emotionally, sexually, and relationally. A safe, judgment-free space where growth can begin. Come as you are and grow into who you're becoming. Reach out today and take your first step toward healing with Dyanna